Do you think MGS V strayed too far from the Metal Gear Solid formula, or do you think it was like a breath of fresh air that the series needed?
I think it was a gamble. I think it was a gamble by Kojima because the idea of what he wanted, the open world aspect, he had a vision of what he wanted it to be, and it's clearly not finished. As much as Konami says, no, it's a done game, and even Kojima will say, no, it was done. It's clearly not.
Yeah.
And I think if he had the time to actually polish that game out the way he normally does, I think it would have come out where it would have been a way nicer game for everybody to enjoy. It's hard to say, like, in its current state, is it a miss? If you're trying to do grand slams, I think this was a bunch of foul balls, and you got walked to first base, essentially.
Right.
I think that's what that game feels like, and it's not bad if you're going to score off of it, but you're not necessarily getting the praise that it could have had.
Yeah, I've spoken to a few people who have played MGS V and have kind of come away feeling that it wasn't an MGS game. And I kind of understand where they're coming from. Like, whilst I do like a lot of aspects of the game, we talked about the gameplay in your questions. I think, no one can deny that gameplay is just amazing. Like, it feels so good to play. But there is something about that game when I'm playing it where I'm like, yeah, I'm playing as Snake in a certain version. Cars is here, Ocelot's here. I'm sneaking around, things like that. There is something about it where I'm like, this is so different to MGS 1 to 4, which were traditionally more, linear experiences and mandatory codec calls and long cutscenes, and I don't know. Like, sometimes I'm like, well, maybe that was the breath of fresh air that the series needed. Maybe if we got another one, it would have felt a bit stale by then. I was tempted to make a video at one point, kind of comparing MGS V to Zelda Breath of the Wild, and how they kind of both broke the formula, so to speak.
They did, and I think about this quite a bit. Breath of the Wild does a lot of similar things that the Phantom Pain did.
Yeah.
Were the way that they were approaching trying to solve world problems, like game development world problems. And Breath of the Wild does it better. And the thing about Metal Gear, though, is I don't think this is just simply espionage games. And when you're on a mission, you have a point A to Z and everything in between. And your goal is to get to there. It's a linear line. In an open world game, I don't think fits that formula for this type of thing. I think that's why it doesn't feel like a Metal Gear game, because it doesn't feel like an espionage game. It feels just like you're just fumbling around in the wilderness.
Yeah, that's true. I also feel like there's another video that I've kind of been thinking about making as well, is like, you can kind of almost go all the way back to Portable Ops and kind of see the influence that game strangely had on MGS V, because obviously that game was built where you selected locations and did a mission at these particular locations, but that was designed for portable gaming, right? You could like pick it up while you're commuting somewhere, do a couple of missions, and then put it down. And then I think Peace Walker took a bit of that, developed on it more, and again was a handheld game. And I just kind of find it weird that structure then made its way into 5, where it's like you pick a mission. Obviously, they're much longer missions overall, but I do sometimes feel like quite interestingly, I've been playing streaming MGS V on my phone and through my Xbox, and I have a controller that you can attach to your phone. And I've actually been really enjoying that game as like a portable experience, because I can just do a couple of main ops, do a few side ops, do a bit of base development, put it down, and I don't know, for me, it almost suits portability more than like a kind of sit down game in a weird way.
That's an interesting point, because when they made that game, PlayStation was pushing the Vita.
Yeah,
At the time. And they had the ability to remote into the console, the PlayStation with it. I'm wondering if that was taken into consideration, because he's always wanted to do those push the technology as much as he possibly can.
Yeah,
I mean, even Death Stranding does its weird pushing the technology. And I think he was trying to develop a cloud game for the Xbox.
That's
currently.
Right. Yeah,
and I mean, that's essentially the foundations for him wanting to do what he's doing now, was that be able to remote into your console, be able to provide a better gameplay because it's a full piece of hardware, opposed to the limitations of, say, portable ops.
Yeah.
You're probably right about that. That's a really, really good point.
Yeah.
Something I do notice about Kojima's game development, though, is he never throws anything away. He starts developing something, and then once he starts developing it, he'll then build on it and incorporate it into new things. And that's why you have like Metal Gear 1, you have like the infiltration base, and the Metal Gear 2, you have the ship, but then you also have the big shell. And all of these ideas get recycled into later games until you finally see all of them and all the different games he's ever made. It's all pushed together in Metal Gear Solid 5. And like, that's and true. Even in Death Stranding, takes some of the same things that was done in Metal Gear Solid 5 and then pushes it into that same design philosophy. Yeah. He never throws any away. He just reuses them differently.
That's true. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Like, you can really see a lot of those old kind of design ideas or like tropes, like you said, redesigned. And there is something about when you play Death Stranding, it does feel oddly similar to MGS 5 in some ways. And I can't put my finger on it, so to speak, but there is, like, you play that game and you can kind of tell that this is from Kojima, and just the way the camera's set in that game, and like, you know, there's even like stealth parts in that game where you have to sneak by the what they call the BTs rather, the beach things as a name. That's quite an interesting point, actually.